Right then, it's a walk-around video, and this is for a Honda Civic 1.6 SR Tourer, obviously diesel. Really lovely car, finished in grey. This particular example has covered 74,000 miles. I'll go around the car for you. As you can see, it's a facelift model, so you get the new style front end, grille treatments, bumper treatments. Looks absolutely fantastic on the car, I have to say. Lights and lenses are clear, no cracks or condensation. Front bumper very clean indeed. Likewise, bond to the car. Hardly a stone chip any note on it at all. Come down the near side first, passenger side, very smooth in the panels, no obvious indentations there at all. Near side front alloy, generally good, just a bit of light curbing, which you're naturally going to expect on a sort of 7-year-old car with the mileage it's done, but it is light. Near side rear alloy, again, very good. Come around to the back of the car. That always sets my favourite angle for these Tourers. It really is a very, very handsome looking estate car. Down to the offside, driver's side. Again, absolutely beautifully smooth in the panels. Offside rear alloy, lovely condition. And the remaining panel looks absolutely fantastic on the car. And final alloy, again, just light curbing on the outside edge of the wheel. Main spokes very good indeed, but it's in really, really, really good condition, this car. Going to the back of the car now, absolutely enormous boots, obviously the reason to buy an estate. Really nicely finished by Honda and very, very, very nice condition. It's coming into the back of the car now, and this is generally where Civics can be very heavily used and worn. Nothing to do with build quality, but just basically where the kids sit. But this one, again, has been kept really nicely. Leatherwork's in lovely condition. Coming to the front and the passenger side, again, really, really clean and tidy. Front seat there, it's been given absolutely minimal use. Finally coming to the front, on the driver's side, all really clean and tidy. Driver's seat, really good. The only tiny bit of wear, which you always will get, a tiny bit of wears just there, but you can tidy it up. And you get slight compression on the leather there, but that, for the age of mileage, is in super condition. Inside the car now, as always, the engine's running, so the dashboard can be seen illuminated. Dashboard looks pretty much as new, incredibly clean. Sat nav, as you can see, working absolutely perfectly. Pop the car into reverse. A lovely clear gridded parking camera, all working exactly as it's meant to. It's been kept very, very, very nicely. Then come up to this wonderful view of our maintainers, the best dashboard by a mile. It's absolutely stunning. If I go over there for you, and hopefully you can see 74,454 miles, and there are no warning lights on the dashboard at all. Finally, just to show you, owner's manual pack and lock and wheel nut key are both here and present with the car. Right then, this is a quick road test video, and this is for a Honda Civic 1.6 SR Tourer. This particular car is registered DC65UKW, and mileage currently showing on the vehicle just 74,454. The reason we do all of our videos, and as I always say, especially this road test section, is because we want to ensure that if anyone's looking at any of our cars online, they actually get to see the advertised car in operation. We, like so many people, have been to see cars which have looked perfectly good in photographs and description, only to get there and find out there's a fundamental issue with the car which you'd much rather known about before setting off, so that's why we do it. We also do it on these very quiet country roads very close to our premises, and this actually forms part of the road test route we take our customers on, and hope is then that it'll be representative of what we feel, and should we offer to test drive the car. So coming to the car, engine starts instantly, of course, and settles to a smooth, even idle. There are no warning lights on the dashboard at all relating to the engine or any other part of the car, and temperature gauge is running at a third, which is exactly where it's meant to be on a Honda vehicle. The engines are simply brilliant diesel engines. I've got one in my CR-V, I've had numerous Civics, hatches, estates, you name it, I've had it. But it's just a lovely engine to use day in, day out, because it, apart from low revs, idle, you know, on the move it's quiet, smooth. The economy is ridiculous in them. They're amazing, and you don't have to kind of nurture them to get the economy either. You know, it helps, but you don't. It's not one of those cars where, you know, you've got to just be the gentlest of applications the whole time. It comes relatively easily. In the ones I've had, doing shorter trips, I'd be high 50s, 60 to the gallon. Longer trips over 70, and that's easy. So they're cam chain driven, by the way, so there's no cam belts on them, and, you know, typical Honda engine. They've got a reputation for being incredibly long lasting and reliable. Engine then feeds into the clutch and gearbox in the car. Clutch in the car absolutely spot on. Bite point's exactly where it's meant to be. It's nice and smooth in operation. Gearbox, 6-speed manual gearbox. Honda do these things brilliantly. You know, like so many cars, the gearbox in this vehicle is actually joined to the gearbox underneath by cables. So that can mean that some cars can have kind of light, lifeless, vague. You know, how they manage to do that is beyond me, but there we are. But the Civics are just lovely. It feels robust. It feels mechanical. It's got a lovely feeling of weight to it when you're changing gear. It's actually really satisfying to use, and it's unfortunately other manufacturers seem to think that you just want to change gear for the sake of changing gear, but they don't expect you to get any pleasure out of doing it, whereas this is really nice to do. It also feels exactly as it would have done when it was new. There's absolutely zero wear in it. Let's come to the steering and the chassis of the car. One of my favourite parts, actually. I love the chassis and the steering in these cars. Steering helps by, you know, first of all, you've got this lovely leather-bound steering wheel, feels really sporty in hand, but it's really nicely weighted. And again, that's where so many manufacturers get it wrong. They can be kind of really light, vague sort of steering. It does the job, but it's not exactly engaging. It's got a lovely weight to it. It's incredibly crisp and precise. You can point it to millimetre on the road. It's just lovely, and the chassis goes with it perfectly. It also tracks absolutely dead straight. There's no vibrations at this speed or any speed up to the legal limit. And then the chassis itself, the first thing you notice is it's got this lovely compliance, beautifully damp ride. You do actually have the option on these top of the range ones, or the top spec ones. You've got a little button down here, so the rear shock absorbers. I'm currently on normal. I'm now in comfort, so slightly more squidgy, and then dynamic, you can feel a difference. The dynamic, it definitely is firmer. Being old and arthritic, I quite like the comfort setting, actually, but that doesn't seem to impact on its ability to go through the corners. It still devours them. You know, a series of corners, unknown roads. It holds no fear for the car. It's got really lovely poise, balance. When you enter corners, it doesn't matter what type of corner they are. You know, fast sweepers, tight ones, off camber. It just absolutely loves it. You know, and if you're someone that, you know, still enjoys driving, you know, because I know there's a rarity these days, it's a car that you can get in and actually get some pleasure out of, rather than just a machine to get you from A to B. Also, by the way, this section of road's awful, so I always talk about it here. Just listening out for any kind of clunks or rattles coming from underneath the car that shouldn't be there, and there's nothing at all. It's absolutely spot on. Brakes on the car are really, really good on the vehicle. It's got a lovely initial bite, and there's no pulsing or vibrations coming through the brake pedal at all, so all absolutely spot on. That was notwithstanding, it's going for an MOT later today, actually, so these things are going to be checked by an independent MOT test station, so, you know, but, you know, we're not expecting anything. Finally, coming inside the car, first things first, they are beautifully, beautifully made cars. Quite often you get a car this age and mileage, especially estate cars, probably to do with the sort of torsional rigidity of the cars. They can be creaky and groany. This is just so solid. They are beautifully made, nice textures, finishes on the car. But the only subjective thing in this video really is I adore this dashboard. Absolutely adore it. Not only to look at, but to use. But that is a personal opinion rather than kind of fact. And what I love about it, though, is the fact that it's a complete Marmite interior. You either really do love it, or hate it. And I think that's really good design, because I think interesting things in life do form sort of polarised opinion in some ways, and this is very much one of those. But what I like the fact is that in a day and age of cars where they're quite often over-styled, over-fussy, over-complicated, all of what they've done is for the benefit of the driver. It's not to look glamorous, even though I think it looks amazing. So basically, the most conventional part, this centre stack here, so big screen sat navs, relatively easy to use, especially compared to modern ones. You've got a dual zone climate control system, which obviously the chance to have different temperatures side to side. That's pumping out absolutely ice cold air, by the way. Heated seats, all working as they should. Everything you press got this beautiful quality of actuation that Honda give you. Every kind of, I hate the expression, they call it touch points, but basically it's true. You touch the steering wheel, you touch the gear lever, you press the pedals, you do this, you press those buttons. They are all satisfying and beautifully engineered. But my favourite part is this two-tier design on the dashboard. And I said it is not just for looks. So at the upper display, you've got information display pod up there. So if I change things like your fan speed down here, or my radio, it comes up on a bigger display up there. So you're not having to look down into the car to see what it's doing. And you compare that to modern cars where you're into about 15 sub-menus on their infotainment systems, and you're probably ploughed into about 15 people in the meantime. Then you've got, what I love most, of course, is the Speedo, just sat there all by itself, big, bold, easy to read, digital, so I can stare at that lorry in front, out the corner of my eye, without even taking my eyes off the road, see my speed. It's genius, absolute genius, works brilliantly. Down below that, you've got more conventional pod of 3 dials, big rev counter in the middle, flanked by the temperature and fuel gauges, and then, as I said, you've got this lovely steering wheel, and it's in fantastic condition in here. As I said at the start of the video, the videos are literally just to show the car operating, but to feedback on any obvious issues there are with the car, of which there's nothing at all. These are massively sought after cars. If I could buy nothing but Civic Tourers, I would buy them, but they just aren't available, unfortunately. Certainly not in the condition that I want, at least anyway. But this is a very, very fine example. As always though, if you've got any questions about the car, don't hesitate to give us a call.